Hey everybody, Josh RV Nerd with Bish's RV here with another your monthly-ish industry updates. A bunch of different things where I've done the digging so you don't have to. We're going to be looking at kind of the state of the industry in terms of what's being produced versus what's being sold, and actually a really interesting disconnect between what consumers say they want and what consumers are actually buying, which I thought was very interesting. We're also going to talk about some really kind of uncomfortable topics like the state of RV service, as well as like if you were going to order an RV, how long would it take that thing to get built by a manufacturer and get into you today? All that and more with a bunch of manufacturing news and a little bit of a random roundup and anything I could get my hands on. And if I sound like I'm moving fast right now, that's because we apparently have a storm coming in and I don't want to have a camera-shaped lightning rod in my hand, so let's get cracking. And if you appreciate the information today, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like our video. Please comment on different things that you think or want to share as we go, and please feel free to share this video into your favorite little, social camping community. So first of all, the state of new RV production from manufacturers out there. Taking a look at one of these handy blue and gold bar charts that I've been including in a lot of my videos recently. At a glance, it looks like compared to last year, the sky is falling. It looks like manufacturers must be hemorrhaging and bleeding business and really struggling, and certainly they would like to be making more money and building more things, just like, you'd like to be making more money, but neither here nor there. If you look at this year's numbers, the chart this year has been far less extraordinary and spiky, and it's actually been almost like the industry's on a little cruise control kind of thing, which really, if we're being real about this, in an election year is not necessarily an uncommon thing. The consumer marketplace tends to be a little more conservative in an election year, and then the year after an election year, no matter who wins or what the result is, at least everyone now knows what the reality is, and they tend to just relax and go back to their normal traditional consumer spending patterns. At least that's been my experience through an industry based on discretionary income. But I mean, again, I'm not the most experienced guy. I'm not a trained economist or something like that, so take that with a grain of salt. But if you look, there are about 50% fewer RVs being built and shipped this year as compared to last year. And that totals something like 140,000 plus shipments so far year to date, with roughly at about the halfway point of the year. Remember that the numbers off these charts actually always lag a little bit behind by the time that all the information gets reported and compiled. There's always like a little bit of a delay period in there. But the thing is, what's being built and what's being sold, that is not necessarily the exact same thing. We're going to talk about all that in a minute, but first, all these little charts and graphs and stuff, like, what does all this mean? Well, if you look at the timing of these charts, if you look at the months of year versus what happens this time of year, we are approaching a model year change. And that was less of an issue the last 2 years, where the goal was get anything on the dealership grounds because people are buying everything that possibly is available out there. That's not the case currently. Instead, what's happening here is we're kind of resuming a more traditional market segment. By the way, like, I've seen a lot of people say, oh man, dealer lots are packed with inventory. Dealer lots are back to traditional stocking levels. The last 2 years was some very non-traditional market situations where, like, if you looked in the background to some of my videos 2 years ago, the lot was basically barren, and now it looks like it's jam-packed full. We have less in stock right now than like 4 years ago that we actually had in stock at this specific store, by a couple hundred actually. So dealer lots are just resuming a normal kind of thing, and that's sort of what you're seeing in these production trends. Like, this year's been far more measured because there is still a situation where a lot of dealerships are slowly spilling off and burning off the, for lack of a better way to say it, excess inventory, or another way that I've phrased it in the past was COVID convenient inventory, where dealerships were often signing up any brand and every brand they could just to get any trailer and every trailer they possibly could. And now they're actually kind of slowly recycling their inventory back to what I'm going to call their core critical lineup, the things that really kind of the backbone of the dealership lineup every single day. Those things you're seeing continue to get replaced to keep healthy business relationships there, while some of the other secondary, tertiary brands are starting to fizzle and fade off of some dealership lots. So that's why, yes, production is down, but you are seeing a very steady clip of things through. But like I mentioned, what's being built and what's being sold, It's not necessarily the same story. Because as surprising as this is to a lot of people who think a lot of RV dealerships must just be about to die or something like that, sales are only down about 21% this year versus last year. So 50% fewer RVs built, but sales are not following those same proportional relationships. And if you're like, well, how could that be? Go back to that chart that I displayed earlier. If I remember, I'll try to flash it up here on screen again, but hey, no promises. I'm not exactly skilled at what I do. Anyway, I'm just an experienced idiot. You see the variance between the blue and the gold bar charts. That big variance is that extra 30% of sales that isn't being translated into production. All those extra things that were already in stock, like I said, are being spilled off and burned off, and we are approaching a little more of an even keel situation where dealerships are getting back to having their core inventory and replacing the things that they actually want to carry on the fly, as opposed to just dealing with whatever they could get at any given point. A lot of that has kind of cycled through, and I personally predict that you will start to see production levels on those bar charts increase over the next 2 to 3 months as we come into the 24 model change. Because one of the other things that happens this time of year, when a dealership who's smart at managing their inventory, you will actually see their summer stock dwindle a little bit as they get their lots lean, mean, and clean for the model change updates, because they don't want to have a lot full of old stuff when all the new stuff is coming out. And supporting that, the last 3 months, retail sales have actually outpaced RV wholesale production and shipments. So for the last 3 months, there's been a slow inventory deficit where there's been fewer and fewer RVs available month after month, because a lot of dealerships are waiting for all the new stuff to come out. And in the fall is when manufacturers tend to offer their big discount packages, which we haven't really seen for a couple years, but I have a feeling this year you're going to see some really aggressive manufacturer incentive packages come out there. And unlike the auto industry, those incentives are not typically directed straight to a customer. They're offered to the dealership as an incentive to get the dealer to order up, to keep the factory building through the winter months to get them into the spring selling season. I think we're going to see that that return to normalcy, if you will. And you know, through my videos, or in the background of these videos, you see all these different brands. And if you check out their websites, or if you talk to different sales representatives at different dealerships, isn't it crazy how no matter who you talk to, somehow the brand that they sell or represent or happens to be parked there is always the number one in some way, shape, or form? Well, a little bit of that is figures lie and liars figure, and you can twist various numbers around to read and mean different things. But something I was kind of curious about, I wanted to actually go through and look at, like, who are the top total manufacturers. Now, I didn't have a time to break out all this data in quite the way that I wanted to, so I have it kind of broken down by parent company, things like Thor, Forest River, Grand Design, etc. And I wanted to kind of go through segment by segment to really kind of discuss who is the biggest at what they do. So beginning in the, oh, by the way, all of these stats are specific to the American market. There are some manufacturers that are more Canadian specific for our neighbors up north there who tune in and watch us, and thank you very kindly, by the way. Send me some maple syrup. Don't do that. I don't need anything. Don't send me anything. I'm good. The Canadian market numbers are a little bit different, and all of these stats are from an independent third party called Statistical Surveys. All they do all day long is break down numbers like this, so it's the cleanest, purest data I could possibly hope to get my hands on. But kicking things off, let's break down the towable market. And you're going to see a couple names recur very often through this, because Thor and Forest River are the two biggest consolidators of RV companies out there. You know, where they're a banner holding company-ish kind of thing, where basically they own all these smaller subsidiary companies that all kind of look like they're under one badge. In the travel trailer market, Thor is the largest percentage of market share overall, with Forest River being a very close, respectable second. And interestingly, Grand Design reports as number 3. I thought it's really interesting to me that Grand Design data is reported separately from Winnebago, even though Grand Design is owned by Winnebago and a subsidiary thereof, but that's how the numbers break down. And that actually was really interesting to me, that despite being compared to all these names combined all into one, that Grand Design on its own was number 3 at the table. They were, making a significant group. And in travel trailers, there's Reflection, there's Imagine, there's Transcend. And I think a lot of people, when you think Grand Design travel trailers, Imagine is the name that comes up. But I don't know if you've caught from some of my videos where I've reviewed them, Transcend is some of the most original stuff out there, and Transcend has actually surpassed even some of the top-selling Keystone stick-in tins, and is continually every year climbing up the charts. And I think that they've been a bigger piece of that puzzle than people realize. They've quietly been doing a lot of work, but my job's to make things maybe not so quiet. Fifth wheels. The names are basically the same, but the percentages are a little bit different there. I was actually quite shocked at how large of a gap there was between Thor as the #1 overall producer of fifth wheels to Forest River and Grand Design after that. There's some big names under all of those companies right there. But I think in the fifth wheel world, when you've got brands like Jayco and Keystone both having really strong histories in fifth wheels, just the total combined effort of that under Thor created, I was surprised at how, I don't want to necessarily say a dominant, but a very obvious leader in that segment. But down into the world of camping trailers. You hear camping trailers and it just sounds like travel trailers. Camping trailers means things like pop-ups. That was just hands down dominated by Forest River. But there's not even a whole lot of builders who really make camping trailers anymore. And both brands like Rockwood Flagstaff, or Rockstaff as I like to call them, because they're the same thing, or Coachman, those are definitely the biggest volume producers of camping trailers, and that all reports under the Forest River banner. So I think the majority of camping trailers nowadays are made by some Forest River division under one name or another. But that's the world of towables. What about the motorized stuff? Well, overall, as we break down Class A, B, and C kind of motorized, the general trend of Thor being #1, Forest River 2, and then somebody #3 kind of seems to really fit in the bill. But I mean, that makes sense. Those are, Thor and Forest River, I call it Forest River, are about 85% of the RV industry overall, and I bet that's a conservative estimate. Anyway, looking at the Class A market actually kind of surprised me. There's a far wider gap between #1 and 2 than I expected right there, with Thor being fairly dominant overall in the Class A market. Wasn't too much of a surprise to see Newmar kind of creep into that conversation, considering that's what they do and they're specialists thereof. They don't really do much outside of the Class A market, and they're very good and well respected at what they do. The Class C market, it was far closer between Thor and Forest River, with only about 1.5% or like 1.4% market share difference between the two. With Winnebago really finally coming into the conversation over there. And in the Class B market, once again, Thor and Forest River pretty neck and neck. Oops, I called that wrong. You may have saw I glanced down at my notes right there. I apparently was looking at some other data when I spouted that out. Obviously, looking at the numbers on the screen here, it's Thor and Winnebago that are about neck and neck in the Class B segment. Sorry about that. With Rev Group kind of sneaking in there. If you weren't aware, Rev Group they're specialized builder of kind of B-van type stuff, but also the parent company over like Lance Towables now. A lot of people still weren't quite sure about that. But I don't know if you were paying attention to the total number of registrations there. The total sales volumes, when you actually break them down into numbers, I think are far different than the average consumer is really led to believe through marketing or when they talk to people at dealerships. Because I think when you talk to a lot of places, and like when you go to a lot of dealerships, you see a lot of fifth wheel stock, and some places are really upfront and overt about, look at all the motorhomes we have. A lot of that reasoning, I think, is because those things are not as high of volume, so they need more help being put in front of a consumer, and they need more help selling, basically, because typically speaking, travel trailers being a higher volume segment tend to kind of sort of sell themselves in a more easy fashion, obviously. But if you really look at the numbers, like after travel trailers, there's a massive fall down to fifth wheels, and then after that, it trickles off real hard. And I think it surprises a lot of people how few motorhomes are actually built, sold, and registered every year compared to towables. I think there's more fifth wheels alone than all motorized combined, and that's before you even touch travel trailers, pop-ups, anything like that. So just to kind of give you some insight, like a lot of people watch this channel and they say, well, you know, why don't you cover more motorhomes or whatnot? If you actually look at what I publish, I'm publishing in a similar-ish kind of proportion to what is actually being, you know, purchased out there in the marketplace. I try to shape my content according to your patterns. So it's kind of a situation where, you know, you're driving this channel, even in ways that maybe you don't overtly predict. But I thought it'd be kind of interesting to actually break those numbers down and maybe understand a little bit of the reasoning behind the method to my madness. What do we want to talk about now? How about if you're going to order an RV right now, how long does it take for that thing to show up? And I haven't talked about this a while. Actually, there's a lot of people, even among Bish's RV type people, who really probably don't want me talking too much about ordering RVs. But again, the overall leadership of the company absolutely encourages what we call the relentless pursuit of transparency. And we want to do everything we can to educate you as consumers, and we feel if we do that, we will earn your business, not just get your business. But anyway, I haven't touched on this a while. If you were to place an order for a new RV today, how long it takes to get that order built and shipped to the dealership depends a little bit on sort of where a manufacturer's at in production cycles, how popular that brand is overall, what kind of production schedule they have currently. But talking to a lot of different manufacturers, the time frames are a half to a third of what I was hearing about the same time last year, or even less than the year before that. It's awesome for you as a consumer, because if what you're looking for is not exactly what's on hand, your ability to get one before the camping season is over is actually still pretty good. So talking to different manufacturers about this, I have heard some with time frames as low as 4 to 6 weeks. Some said like an average of 5, so 4 to 6. Some of the more popular brands have said like 6 to 8 weeks, which is a pretty reasonable and fairly traditional kind of time frame. Remember how I said we're sort of returning to traditional norms? This is yet another symptom of that I've learned over my years and years of experience doing this. At most, the longest time frame that I heard from any manufacturer is about 9 weeks. So you figure just about 2 months, a little over that, give or take. But overall, there's still some good time. Like if you were looking for something and you wanted to get it for like a fall camping season kickoff or something like that, if you had a trade-in, you could probably still use your current RV for a while and then enjoy the new one coming into fall to kind of get your feet wet on it, so you can hit next spring and next summer, in really good shape to enjoy what you want. Now, I will continue to touch on those kind of lead times and time frames over the next few months, maybe every other month or something like that, just to help kind of keep you in tune. Because I've already started to talk to a lot of people like, I'm looking for October, or I'm kind of looking for something so I can get into next year. But people are starting to get their feet wet, to get their plans and their things in order. And I'll do whatever I can to keep you, in tune and in touch with what you might expect out there. So that's kind of a look at the new RV market, but what are the trends happening in the used RV market? Not everybody wants to go brand new every time. And actually, if you're a first-time RVer, I think a used RV is a good way to start. Actually, I recommend almost renting an RV first before you get into anything, but I've actually done a totally different video on that. If you're kind of curious, bunch of tips for first-time buyers, but even second-time buyers might find some benefit in that. But in the used RV market, overall, well, first of all, there was a significant lower chunk in terms of wholesale auction volume, and that's what all this data is. RVs that came across a wholesale auction block where like dealers can go bid on and buy used RVs. There were a chunk fewer of them out there. There in terms of numerical value, there were a lot less towables, but in terms of percentage value, towables were down a little bit, motorized was down a little bit more. Weirdly, towable value stayed very consistent. It actually went up about 1%, but basically has held pretty steady. And if you look at the last couple months off those charts, that seems to be kind of the case. As the new RV market is sort of stabilizing, the used RV market stabilizes a bit. And I have said so many times, the price and the value of a used RV is relative and proportionate to the health and status of the new RV market. If the new fifth wheel market is up, used fifth wheel pricing goes up. If the new fifth wheel market goes down, used fifth wheel values go down. So that's where sometimes, like, there were some people who, during the pandemic fueled era, they were like, man, I sold my old fifth wheel for more than I paid for it. And then they went to buy a new one and went, oh crap, but now I'm even deeper in the hole, you know? So it can be an easy way out, hard way in, or hard way out, easy way in. It just depends on current market conditions, you know? Motorized, though, was a little bit of a different animal. And it has been. If you've been following these industry updates for a while, it seems like every other month, motorized values, they go up or down in weird, kind of unpredictable ways. It's very strange how that market fluctuates so differently compared to the towable RV market. With motorized values shooting up again this past month, although I expect next month they'll drop down once again, because they seem to be bouncing somewhere between $60,000 to $70,000 in like wholesale auction value. Like month to month, they spike up and down very, like, you know, 15 to 20% value like that. It's very strange to me how that's kind of played out, and I don't know that I've ever really been able to make total sense of why that is with the motorized market. Do you guys have any ideas? I never claimed to be real smart. And something very fun, we haven't talked about any significant model changes happening in the last couple years. Very few manufacturers have actually really done anything to advance their product. They were so swamped and overwhelmed with just building what they had, they couldn't even begin to like talk to suppliers about changing stuff around. And for the most part, last couple years, you were lucky if you got 3 updates. And I think this year for the 2024s, we're going to see one of the biggest shakeups and mass model changes that we've seen in a long time. Because again, a lot of manufacturers just have not been doing a lot. I think you're going to see things other than, you're going to see updated exteriors, new interiors, and probably the biggest surge and influx of new floor plans that we have seen in the last half dozen years. Manufacturers have been still coming up with ideas, but haven't been able to build anything for a while. So get ready to see a lot of new stuff. And I've already been pre-recording a bunch of new 2024 content, but I will tell you, I still have a slug of 23 stuff to come out in this channel. Just to give you an idea for the folks who tune into this channel more than just the newsy kind of stuff like this. Probably for most of the month of August, you'll see a lot of 23 content, and then coming into September, you're going to see a heavy break over into 24 stuff. And the things that I've seen, the new models, the new floor plans, sometimes entirely new series of RVs, has been very exciting. And actually, a couple days prior to this video coming out, I've been down at Brinkley catching an exclusive look at their newest thing as well. But I've been at like Wildwood and so many places, and I'm going to be at so many more. So if I'm a little slow to respond to comments, it's probably because I'm stomping around on the ground with a camera in my hand, working my butt off to get you more footage. Now, I want to give you some additional insight and almost cautionary info on the 24 updates. When things like this happen, let's say a manufacturer comes up with 20 ideas they'd like to do to their camper. They look and logistically, maybe they can execute 10 of those. And maybe 5 of them are ready right away, and the other 5 will be ready very soon. So when you see the first generation of 2024 RVs out there, chances are they'll have some of the updates. And I've actually seen some 23 RVs that are 24 previews, basically, where they were getting ready for that. And even those aren't fully all the way there. But your first wave of 24s probably won't have every single update in it. And then about the time, the end of September, November, and especially December, that's when I guess you'd call the full, true, complete 2024s will be done at that time. But also during that window, manufacturers' invoicing will change month to month to month. So their pricing on this stuff will slowly and consistently update as the new products and the new features roll out. They will be changing their invoices. So when you are, or if you are ordering an RV in that 4 to 9 week window that we talked about earlier, it is really important, and we haven't talked about this for a long time, but it's really important you ask your dealer, are you price protected on that? Most manufacturers, if you're a customer who places an order on an RV today, your price is not guaranteed by the manufacturer. If their invoice cost goes up in the meantime, the cost to the dealership goes up, and a lot of times with two dealers are fighting head to head, there's not always room to be able to cover that in there. Sometimes dealers will, sometimes dealers won't. It's a case-by-case basis. You need to ask and you need to verify ahead of time so you don't get slugged in the face afterwards when it's too late. There are a few manufacturers, like I think Alliance, I think Brinkley, are like, if you order something today, they say, okay, you're price locked. Even if they add updates and other equipment in the meantime, you'll get all the new stuff at the old price. So we're coming into a funny phase here where you might be able to place an order with a few brands or dealerships and get extra for the same money that you already agreed to, but that's not guaranteed to be the case every place that you go and every brand that you shop. So that is a big time situation of buyer beware, caveat emptor. Thank you, Mrs. Vasey, for teaching me a little bit of Latin in the 5th grade. Salve magistra, by the way, and which is Latin for hi, teacher. But that is a real big pro tip right there. And if you appreciate those kind of insights that just come with a lot of years of experience in doing this, please hit that subscribe button if you're new with us, and let's get moving on from here. I want to talk about something that isn't fun and comfortable to talk about. The state of RV service in the industry currently. I have often said, I love the industry, I love the lifestyle, I love the people, but there are some inherent flaws on the service side of things, and I'm working on getting data to try to enlighten and bring that to the surface a little bit more. But just doing what I could in the limited time that I had before this came out, doing some in-house digging on like average fulfillment time on a warranty claim. Like if something goes wrong on your camper and you have to leave it at a dealership, from the time you drop it off to the time you pick it back up, like how long is stuff taking? And I think a lot of us are more accustomed to the auto industry, which is far more clean and in tune and streamlined with supporting clients after the sale. The RV industry is just not there. And, you're thinking it might be a day or two, a week or two. But what I found is your average warranty fulfillment from soup to nuts, basically, start to finish, is about 80 days. Now, some extra insights on that number. I forgot to include in my base video, so pardon me for punching in on top of you here. Of those 80 days, typically about 2/3 to 3/4 of that is actually waiting on manufacturer fulfillment. So, the very first half, the thing gets dropped off, it gets diagnosed by the dealer, the information gets sent in, and on the very back end, the parts actually get there, we get it pulled back in the shop, and we get the thing fixed. But the majority of the time in the middle, we're either waiting to hear back from a manufacturer's warranty agent telling us, like, we need more photos, they need more information, it has been approved, it hasn't, whatever. Or, hey, the parts are on the way, and maybe they're the right parts, maybe they're not. The number of times the wrong part gets shipped to the dealership is absolutely baffling and astounding. That is something that could definitely improve these repair event cycles. But I'm not telling you we're perfect and we're without sin. I will tell you just flat out, even just my home store dealership, I'm proud of our team here. There's areas that we're working on improving, and there have been several instances this year where something just flat got missed, or we did the diagnosis but forgot to submit to the warranty company, and it greatly delayed a customer getting back their RV. I'll be real about this, and I'll take the black eye, but the vast majority of the time, the biggest bulk of the wait is actually waiting to either hear back or actually get the parts or the right parts here, or they get shipped here and they're damaged on arrival. That is so painfully common, and I'm not happy to say it, but that's the truth of the matter. I'm not in love with that number. I'm really not in love with that number. That is a painful number to talk about. And again, I hope you appreciate that we're willing to talk about stuff like that. And I'm encouraged to talk about stuff like that. It's not just me running around rogue. It's leadership saying, tell people this. They need to know about this before they spend their lots of money. What's encouraging is that is lower. Earlier this year, coming into the turn of the year, it was about 120 days. That sucks hard. That sucks eggs real hard. That's a third of the year. That's your whole summer season potentially lost. That sucks. And a couple months ago it was about 90 days. So while I'm not in love with 80 days, I am somewhat encouraged on the direction that it's trending. And I think part of that is because RV manufacturing is not full tilt crank like it had been. And that means that there's more parts available. This is one of those things that drives me nuts about the RV industry. It is, there's a general thing where there's a bigger emphasis placed on selling the next one than servicing the last one you sold. I hate what I just said. But if we're calling a spade and a duck a duck. I think that a lot of people probably understand and agree with that. What I mean by that, though, is I don't mean just necessarily dealerships. Different dealerships have different cultures, but let's say you're an RV supplier. You make shower curtains, okay? Something simple and innocuous, or water heaters or something like that. Well, if Thor or Forest River orders 20,000 water heaters, and then Bish's RV orders 2, which customer do you think is going to get taken care of first? Probably the big guy that pays your real bills, right? Well, that's cool, and I understand that, but in the meantime, what that means is that a customer who has already made the purchase and made the commitment, and we've shook hands, is now caught in the middle. And there's not always something that can be done about that on a quicker, more timely basis. I really don't like that. I don't like that at all, but that is kind of the real way of things. Now, what I haven't been able to do, because breaking out this data is just a nightmare. I've been starting to get some things from our warranty and service, like national advisors and stuff, and I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to hire like a full-time statistician to break some of this out. But something I'm wanting to do, or would you be interested in this? I guess let me know. Something I want to do is I want to make a video where I say, okay, so we sold this many of brand X, Y, and Z, and we had this many warranty claims from this brand, which means, you know, like we might have more warranty claims from a brand, but if we sell far more of their trailer, they might be proportionately a lower warranty instance brand. They might be, you could say, more reliable in that regard. And what was the severity? How many dollars did this represent? Did a brand have a bunch of issues, but they were little small stuff that we could take care of, or were they known for big, scary stuff? I want to try to somehow be able to go through and peel through data and create a video like that, but I haven't been able to yet. I can't make a promise. If that is something you're curious about or interested in seeing, let me know. I think I probably know the answer, but every now and then I get it wrong. And again, you folks drive this channel. Keep it up. And something else I've been keeping an eye on kind of month to month here, taking periodic looks at it through the various weeks, fuel price trends. And understand that the charts and stuff that you're about to see on screen, that stuff's probably about a week old, because I have to pre-make all this footage before it rolls out, because it takes a long time to get it all produced. It's a long video. But fuel prices have been holding very consistent and steady over the course of this year. You might notice, beyond a couple little blips for some holidays, there haven't been any major spikes. What, surprisingly, average fuel price over 4th of July weekend dropped a couple cents, which totally shocked me. And then it jumped up after. So the pricing of fuel did go up around the holiday, just not at the part that I expected it to do. There has been, though, we are in the summertime, the demand is exceeding the supply a little bit currently. Like we are using more fuel, like national, available reserves and stuff like that have been going down a little bit. That is likely expected to cause a little bit of a fluff and increase in fuel pricing over the next couple months, which I'm not excited about. And if you look at this nationally, this mirrors the reports that I've been getting from people in the comment section. The average fuel price by region, the folks out west, and weirdly Illinois specifically, absolutely paying well above national average, where kind of through the middle of the country in a sparser population zone, average pricing is a little bit lower. The eastern side of the country kind of right there in the middle for the most part, other than the northeastern section of the country. Average fuel pricing, if you look at like now versus last year, things like that, again, it's been holding very consistent this year, and versus last year, not quite as spiky as I would have expected. But I'd be kind of curious to know, like, understanding fuel pricing might trend up a little bit later this year, and that's a might. I don't know. I expected it to go up more than it did 4th of July, so I don't always get everything right. That's why I say don't base all your plans strictly off of me. Go get more information from more places. I don't care. Like, someone told me one time, like, hey, sorry, I watched some other YouTube channel. I don't care. Go get that information and educate yourself. I encourage it, frankly. But knowing that fuel prices are probably going to creep up a little bit, is that going to affect your fall and or winter camping or travel plans? Or do you think you're just gonna, if you have plans, you're just gonna keep going? Are you gonna cancel anything? Are you gonna continue booking or keep your bookings? What do you think you're gonna do? And Go RVing recently released a kind of consumer trends report, and I keyed into something under their sustainability segment, which isn't necessarily related to where I'm going to go with this line of thought, but it does kind of mirror the fact that there is a trend out there, like it or not. And this might be a hot take that you don't really care to hear. I'm sorry, but there is literal data that supports this. Consumer audio does not match consumer visual. What I mean by that is specific to sustainability first and foremost. Over 60% of Americans feel that companies need to do more to make their products and their brands more sustainable. But only about 3.4% of Americans actually purchase according to that, what would seem like an overwhelmingly strong feeling. Now, relating that to the RV and travel industry, those numbers hold almost one-for-one identical. The correlation is scary how close it is. And in a way, I get it, because sustainable stuff, processes, products, whatever, tends to cost typically at least 20% more and up from there, depending on the product and exactly what it costs to get that done. So yeah, we'd like stuff that's more sustainable or affordable, but at the same time, we're not necessarily always willing to pay to get there. And that kind of leads me to something that I've noticed in this RV industry, and I sort of touched on it last month when I talked about New Camp having the opportunity for longer warranties, and I asked, would you be open to that idea? Longer warranties, understanding it will affect the price tag. The price tag on things will go up as a result. Whether you're paying for it up front or in the back, consumer always pays for something. Keep that in mind. You're always the one eventually footing the bill. But I've noticed this. Very common consensus. If you read the comments in these industry updates, there's a lot of people that make statements that just say campers are built like junk or something along those lines. There's plenty of them, and it's hard to see, but I hope you appreciate, by the way, you might notice I don't delete that stuff. I don't filter the comment section unless somebody just goes off the rail MFing me or my family or my friends here at Bish's RV. That's about the only time that I just peel something out. I'm just not going to tolerate that. We can have a discussion like adults. The internet zoo is the internet is a petting zoo for trolls, and I don't feed the goats, kids, is the best way I can describe it. But you look at a lot of the things that I cover in a lot of my videos, and some of them are not always the best built that they could possibly be, but there's also a lot of data that suggests that that is what a consumer is willing to actually pay for. Not that it's the best a manufacturer can do, it's just that it's the most a consumer can pay for. And it really kind of boils down to the trend, I've mentioned it before, that dealerships and manufacturers do not set the market, they reflect the market. And you could say, sure, but if that's all a manufacturer builds, if that's all it's available, it's what a consumer has to buy. But there are some brands that are lower volume, higher cost, really well built, like New Camp's tabs, things like that, very well respected for how they're constructed. But when you look at one of those, you're saying for 20 feet, I'm paying how many tens of thousands of dollars? You guys got to be out of your flipping mind. Well, that's the problem. Until the trends are there where we all as a whole are willing to take the hit on the pocketbook to get the better thing, the thing is not going to get better. I don't really have like a big lesson to be learned from this, just other than understanding that is why you see what you see in the marketplace sometimes. That's why you see the same floor plans get RV R&D'd, rip off and duplicated over and over. It's why you see the same methods. You don't always see a lot of progress in that regard, because that is what historically consumers have said, okay, we may not always love it, but we're willing to pay for it, It's kind of like, a bag of chips comes already broken, but the difference is you can still enjoy a broken bag of chips. You can't enjoy a broken camper. I'm not saying they're the same thing. But that is a trend that I've noticed, and it is a trend that I don't see going away. I would like to see it go away. Don't get me wrong, I'm no different than you. I spend my money the same way, and even though I preach a lot in my videos, buy once, cry once, get the thing that's good the first time, I will admit, I'm that person that buys cheap. I'm no different than any of you. I will buy the cheap thing the first time, then I'll finally shuck out the money to get the better one that I should have got the first time, and end up paying more in the aggregate as a result. That's kind of a symptom of the state of the RV industry, because it's a symptom of just our consumer buying patterns in general. So I'd be kind of curious, do you think that could change? How do you think that could change? What do you think would help you what information do you need as a consumer to say, okay, I am willing to spend more money on that object if it gives me these qualities or these pieces of mind or assurance. What would it take to actually change that climate? And that actually kind of segues me over to my manufacturing news segment here, where maybe on the topic of, what would it take to give you more peace of mind or assurance? What would it take to help you understand why something costs more than the next thing? ATC, the aluminum trailer company, who makes these, like, they're all aluminum, they're Asdel, like, there's no wood in these things. They make what is essentially like a rot-proof RV. It is expensive very often, but they've made certain segments of their Game Changer Play series, like I think the 500 and the 700 series or something like that. They come with now a 10-year structural warranty. Now, I did say structural. That doesn't mean bumper to bumper, tip to tail, things like that. But structural, construction features, which in an ATC is basically everything anyway. It won't cover like water heaters and fridges, but the big, the welds and stuff are covered. 10 years. That's 10 times more than a lot of things. That's over 3 times more than what you typically find in terms of structural coverage out there in the industry. What really surprised me about this is they're not just saying we're going to come out with that for 24. Every time I've ever seen a manufacturer change warranties, it has almost exclusively been now forward. Very little in terms of retro action. Jayco did a little bit a couple years ago, and that's about all I've ever seen. But they are retroacting this 10-year structural warranty on all of their existing 2023s and their existing 2022s. They've just said we are that confident that our build holds up that well, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. Now, just to give you an idea, here's the actual specific verbiage of their 10-year limited structural warranty. They still have like a 1+3 year warranty on some other things, but it's interesting. Like New Camp, we talked about it last month. Now this month we're talking about ATC. Again though, these are a little bit more smaller specialty manufacturers who use different, often better materials, who are not the least expensive brand out there, that are stepping up. So once again, I ask you consumers, kind of like we just talked about a second ago, what do you think justifies cost versus value in your eyes? And at what point are you just no longer willing to pay more for something and willing to settle for maybe a little bit less? And now as I do my Michael Jackson moonwalk routine backwards here, which I'm doing so I can keep an eye in case somebody wheels around the corner. I'm right at the edge of the property by the front driveway. I don't want to get smacked and squished like a witch from the Wizard of Oz, basically. But Grand Design, they recently hosted their second annual now Christmas in July event, where it's basically just a big giant toy drive for Toys for Tots. And what I respect about that is they didn't really make a big deal about it. Grand Design just kind of did this thing, and they didn't really ask for anything in return, so I want to give them some credit. I want to give them some notice and notoriety. I love it when someone gives back like that. I love the Toys for Tots organization. It's something that we do here every year. And actually, while we're talking about that, I want to give a shout out to one of our historical customers, Mr. Adrian Pryke, all the way from the United Kingdom, still sends us stuff for our Toys for Tots box here every year. So thank you, Adrian. Thank you for all the folks there, and thank you, Grand Design, for jumping in on that. Similarly, in terms of giving back and investing, not just in investing in RVers in general. They get a lot of bad press for a lot of different things, but Thor Industries, you may not realize how much they give and donate to the National Forests and Grasslands. What is the name of that organization? I'm totally having a blank here. National Forest Foundation. I almost had it. I just added Grasslands for some reason. The NFF. Thor's reaffirmed their commitment and donations there. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Thor has more than doubled the efforts that NFF has been able to accomplish since 2019. And they do things like, working to improve and maintain our public camping and RV land. So that means maintaining, improving existing campsites, expanding campsites. They've planted over 500,000 trees. They're investing in the future of RVing, not just seeing what can we sell right now, but how can we continue to give people places to camp for a long time. But they do things like, wildlife and habitat conservation and all kinds of cool things. They don't get a lot of credit for that kind of work. I wanted to put that out there and just give them a little tip of the hat for that kind of good effort. And a final interesting little factoid. Solo camping seems to be surging in popularity. there are about 28% more solo campers now than there were not too long ago. There's been a big spike in solo camping activity. And it's something that I've noticed before, but it is disproportionately solo lady campers. I think solo women campers are, last I checked, something like 90% of the solo camping segment, population, group, whatever you want to say there. And I think that's very interesting. There's like, I'm kind of wondering, what do you think what is surging, causing the surge in solo campers and whatnot? Is it work camping? Is it just lifestyle change? Like, what is fueling that right there? And I'm kind of curious. Also, leave me a note. Do you think RV manufacturers are missing the boat by not making solo-centric floor plans? And what would define something as being solo-centric versus just a common couples camper? You know, if it just doesn't have bunks, you could use it as a solo camper, but does that make it really ideal for one person? Or is there something that would clearly define this is a solo camper? Leave me some notes. Let me know. And with that, thanks again for tuning in to yet another month of me just talking for a really long time. And if you appreciate the information that we're giving you here, please again hit that subscribe button, like our videos, and again, leave me all kinds of notes. Let me know what you think about this, even if it's just a simple, hey, thanks, nerd. I laugh every time I see that pop up in the comment section, by the way, so keep it coming. Again, I would really love it if you happen to share this in some of your favorite social camping groups, Facebook groups, anything like that. But beyond that, I've looked at where this channel is versus where it's been, and I cannot thank you folks enough for all the time you've spent tuning in with me. I noticed this year at some point passed over 100 million views on this channel, and we're gonna probably be over 250,000 total subscribers very quickly here in the very near future, which was my end of year goal, and here we are barely halfway through the year and already there. It is, the response that you've had to the work that I pour into this every day is just truly, I don't even understand it, but I do thank you for it. And until next time, take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.